Folks. Um, I want to share a story with you guys about something that happened last night. Um, and but first, I want to say we've got a bunch of new folks jumping in the group in the last day or two, and I want to welcome you guys. And we have some new men joining us that are actually on the spectrum. I look forward to having some ladies who are on the spectrum too. For those of some of you already know me from some other groups, but a lot of you don't really know my background, and I just want to really quickly say, you can see that an Asperger's autism relationship coach, but I have a daughter who is 17 years old who is diagnosed with autism. She's Asperger's. And that's really what got me involved in all of this. And I know that a lot of you have children on the spectrum too. And that's how you first were tipped off that your spouse or your partner might be on the spectrum. And I see that all the time with the clients that come to me. I also realized along the way that her dad is on the spectrum. We were married for 19 years. And then I was also in another relationship after that for about 2.5 years with a man who has two sons on the spectrum. And he was on the spectrum as well, undiagnosed. So, anyway, I've been in this for a while and ended up, I'm also a licensed therapist, been licensed therapist in Georgia for 20 years. And so ended up specializing, though, working with autism in the clinical setting. But now I pretty much exclusively work with folks in adults in autism spectrum relationships. So anyway, I wanted to tell you guys though about something that happened last night here with my daughter, and I wanted to tell this because she's the one on the spectrum, and I wanted to share this with you folks who are on the spectrum about how you can, when you learn to recognize that when the people in your life are sharing something intensely emotional with you, and when you learn to, even if you're so overwhelmed by by that emotional expression, when you learn to acknowledge it, a little bit can go so far. If you saw my video here a couple days ago, you know that I had a migraine, and I've been dealing with this migraine thing for like 3 days, and so I have just been at the tipping point. My emotions have been kind of on edge, and so typically I'm not really expressive emotionally in my family because I live with I have two children who are not really highly emotional creatures, and I also had men. The men that were in my life were not either. So I just kind of learned to keep my emotions kind of reined in. And so my daughter is not used to seeing me cry. And last night I had an interaction that just it just put me over the edge. And by the way, those of you who don't know me yet, part of what I do as a coach is just share with you about my personal situation. I'm all about being very authentic with you guys, and as an expert, that means I have been doing. I'm miles ahead of a lot of you in my experience with this, and in the interactions I've had with hundreds of people on the spectrum. But I'm still on this journey myself too. So, anyway, so last night I hit this tipping point, and I just started crying. I was just crying, and my daughter is not used to seeing this. She's 17, and we had recently been talking about personalities, and she had done a personality profile, and I had done one, and it's something I do with a lot of my clients, by the way. Um, and we've been talking about how she has trouble sometimes being responding to the emotions of others, her personality combined with being autistic, and how I am actually more the really responsive person emotionally. And so she remembered this in this moment last night, and I was crying and trying to pull myself together, and I looked, and she had this deer in the headlight look on her face, which I know a lot of you recognize because you see that in your spectrum folks, and those of you on the spectrum, I know that you recognize that feeling of when your person is being highly emotional and you freeze and you have no idea what to do. And she actually said to me, I don't know what to do. First of all, I want to communicate to you, those of you who are on the spectrum, say that. It was helpful to me for her to say, I don't know what to do, because number one, that was her first acknowledgement to me that she recognized I was experiencing this intense emotion. She was acknowledging I was experiencing it, so I felt acknowledged. And number two, she was also acknowledging and owning that she didn't know what to do. So of course, I don't want my daughter to be my emotional crutch. So I was wanting to let her know I'll be okay, I'll be good. But then the next thing she did is she came over to me, and she's not a hugger. We talk about her Aspie hugs because it's like this sideways hug, and she doesn't like to be hugged by many people. She will actually tolerate hugs with me occasionally because I'm mom. Um, but she gave me this sideways hug, and I was so appreciative of it. And it was awkward, but it was so wonderful. And so she hugged me, and then she went and got our dog and brought our dog to me, to comfort me. But then the other thing that, the thing is, she, even though I was still emotional, she refused to leave, and she stood there, and she still just had this blank stare though, and she didn't have words for me. She didn't ask me how I was feeling. She didn't prompt me to share more, but she just refused to leave, and she just stayed there, and I could tell she was so uncomfortable. And but she didn't leave. And but then the other thing that happened that was it ended up being funny, but I think this is something that we should all be aware of. And I would love for those of you who are on the spectrum to share if you have trouble with this. We know this about her, that when someone is feeling intense emotion or even pain, if they're injured, she has this nervous tick where she starts to smile, like almost like a clown smile, and she'll even laugh. And she knows that it's a very socially inappropriate thing to do, but it's like her body betrays her, and she starts to laugh and smile, and she can't stop herself. And so last night, as she's standing there with me and she's just got the blank stare, and I'm still crying, all of a sudden she blurts out, Mom, I'm going to smile. You're going to make me smile. And um, it actually cracked us both up, and we got tickled, and it really actually helped the moment for me. If I didn't really understand her being on the spectrum, it could have hurt me that she was laughing or smiling. But in that moment, and this is what I want to communicate to those of you on the spectrum, that communication to me was so helpful. It was still an acknowledgement. It was still communicating to me that I'm present, I'm here with you. And even just communicating to me, I know I'm not supposed to be smiling here, but my body's betraying me, but I'm still here with you. So all of that to say, I realize that my daughter, my relationship with her is a totally different relationship than with a spouse or a partner, but it's still a relationship, and it's still a connection. And so, if any of you, I'd love to hear from any of you who can relate to this. If you're a partner, or if you're on the spectrum, if you've had interactions like this, because I know that it takes just a little bit of acknowledgement of what we're feeling. For those of you on the spectrum, just a little bit of acknowledgement, even if you have no idea what to do, if you just acknowledge that you recognize that that emotion is happening, that goes a long way. So, just wanted to share that tidbit with you guys here today. Um, and I have another topic that I might jump on here a little bit later, about the personality piece. So keep an eye out for that a little bit later. It might be tomorrow. But anyway, I hope you guys are having a great day, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.